Most people set goals the same way they order fast food. Quick, convenient, and without much thought. Sure, it satisfies a craving in the moment, but it doesn't really nourish you in the long run. That's why I never understood why goal setting is always so rushed. Our goals are literally tied to how we create meaning in life, even to who we are becoming. And so to me, it only makes sense to take the time to really look within before taking action. So today, I want to give you the step that most people skip. Mapping your inner world. The part where you uncover not just what you want, but also why it matters, but most importantly, what might stop you from achieving your goals before you even begin. Because without this, you're just going to be ordering off of someone else's menu of success. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a detailed journal that I designed that aligns with how your brain processes change. You'll see all of the questions on the screen, so feel free to grab your notebook and follow along. But if you'd like a polished copy, complete with other bonus templates that you'll see in this video, I put together a full journal so you can grab it for only... I'll share some of my personal answers with you so that you can see how this connects to the 1-year life challenge that I'm doing right now. This is literally the journal prompt that I wish I had when I was just starting out my self-development journey. Asking myself these questions in this order is literally what created the most dramatic changes in my life. And now, I just want my outer life to reflect the inner transformation that I went through. And I want the same for you. In the last episode, I've given you a free worksheet that helps you figure out the pillar of your life so that you could have a laser focus for the year ahead. So if you came to this episode with your pillars defined and the goals within each pillars, your area of focus, then you're ready to dig deeper. Now, you may be tempted to skip the first portion of this journal, but I highly recommend that you don't do that because this section needs to feel so real, so personal, and emotionally powerful to you because this is what's going to help you when things get hard. And we know it's going to get real hard once we start reaching for our goals. That's why I'm going to be spending a big chunk of time of this video dissecting the first section. Now, I want you to think about the pillars that you worked on from the last episode as the foundation and walls of your house. They're the structures that hold everything up and shapes who you are. Today, we're going to step inside to design the room. Vision mapping takes those pillars and asks, what do I truly want within them? How do I want each space to feel? This clarity, right from the beginning, ensures that your goals don't just look good on papers, but that they actually feel good in real life. So to do that, we'll use 4 anchor questions, starting with anchor 1. Who do you want to be? So James Clear made this idea popular in his book, Atomic Habits. Basically, he said that instead of focusing on the outcomes, focus on your identity. And I'll be honest, I really struggled with this concept for a very long time because it felt so abstract to me. Like, I knew who I wanted to be, but it was so hard for me to step into that identity. Like psychologically, it made sense to me.
Our brain needs consistency, and if our action does not align with the identity, then it creates this discomfort feeling.
But I still had a hard time really stepping into that identity. So what shifted things for me is when I started to get clear as to why that person matters to me in the first place. This journal forces you to unpack that. So the first question asks you, who do you admire and why? And that's when I learned this little gem. Having a vision of this person helps you first of all see that it's possible to be that person. And then when you interact with them, even if it's online, it stirs feelings inside of you. Whatever it is that you see in this person, psychologically, that person or that behavior makes you feel safe. So by taking the time to really figure out what it is about this person that you admire so much, and then sitting with those feelings, you are training your brain to associate with that identity safety. Your brain associates safety with your survival. And if it's a matter of survival, then your brain will prioritize it. Now, if you find one person that reflects everything that you want in life, that's amazing. But chances are, if you dig deep enough, you'll realize you're unique. You'll probably need multiple role models across different different pillars, and that's okay. And so if admiration gives you that clarity, this question tells your brain what to do about that information. If your brain is clear as to what to do with that information, it will start to scan for ways to act in alignment with that identity. Question 3. Imagining your future self gives your brain a clear identity to protect. This taps directly into your brain's survival instinct because your brain will resist change when it feels like you're betraying the current identity it believes that you are. But if you frame change as becoming a stronger, a better version of you, your brain stops resisting. Instead of fearing change, it begins to see this version of you as essential. But we don't want all of these insights to just float around your head. We need to close the loop. So we finish with 2 more questions. This question will reveal your motivation. Your brain will literally follow any goal, even ones that are driven by ego or outside pressure, because it's wired for survival. But as we all know, fulfillment only comes when your goals are aligned with your soul. This will ensure that we have the kind of motivation that carries us when things get tough. Now, this is crucial, because without it, you can hit every milestones and every goal and still feel empty. Because at the end of the day, feelings is the true outcome that we all want. That's what makes us human. So when you tie your identity to the emotions you want to live in daily, your goals fuel you from the inside out. This full loop signals to your brain that this isn't optional. In reality, we all know what we need to do, but we don't follow through because our brain doesn't see safety in these actions that we need to take. And if our brain doesn't feel safe, it will always go back to our old way of doing things. What does having your life together look to you right now? Now, I get it, we all have big goals and dreams, and oftentimes our brain gets overwhelmed by what we want. But by clarifying what enough looks to you right now, by using the pillars that you've established, you are now reducing the overwhelm, and it roots your vision in sufficiency instead of endless striving. What does an ideal day, week, or year feel like? So for this section, it's actually a really good idea to literally write down your ideal day, your ideal week, your ideal year, so that your brain gets a chance to pre-live in this world. That way, when you start applying it, it's not a shock to your system. And the same goes for your morning and evening routine, because these serves as the bookends for your brain. And then, by focusing on one thing, it frames your goals in terms of sufficiency instead of scarcity. Because remember, our goal is to calm the brain's survival instinct. Once our brain is calm, we want to clearly define what to do with that information. Then again, we close the loop with our motivation and emotion question. So now that you know who you want to be and how you want to live your life, the next natural step is to ask, what do you want to do? And this anchor is all about self-expression, your work, your passion, and any experiences that brings meaning to you. For your brain, this is where deep motivation lives. And these questions help you figure that out. And the trick is, you want to ask these questions with your pillars in mind. This way, it'll give you the structure and focus on what can be done now. And then again, you'll close the loop with your motivation and emotion question. Finally, let's open the last room of your home. What do you want to have? And this question often gets overly emphasized. You know, the house, the car, the things. And this makes sense because it's easier to visualize things that are tangible. And the marketing industry knows this. But when you answer this portion, I want you to keep in mind that having should be about support. What we want to have actually serves our deeper vision. Okay, so now you've mapped out your dream life in a way that's easy for your brain to digest. So let's move on to the next stage. And so the trap that I used to fall into, and maybe you have too, is that I would get so clear on my vision and then I would jump straight into action, right? But within weeks, life just keeps getting in the way of my goals. And that's because no one ever teaches us to check our goals against our current reality. So in this section, we pause and ask, what's my current reality? Where am I right now compared to where I want to be? This flow is how we bridge the gap between our vision and our action. If you skip this order, your brain will feel attacked.
Like everything is wrong and unsafe.
And that's exactly when resistance starts showing up. So I'm not going to walk you through all of these questions, but I do want to show you the power of doing just one section of this journal. So the first thing I do is I zoom out and literally I check my calendar for the year. I look at what's already set in stone. That could be appointments, trip, extra commitments, spiritual events, family gatherings, etc. So this gives me the big picture of what I've already said yes to and what I realistically have space for. Then I zoom into my weekly rhythm. This is about what's already on repeat in my life. Things like your work hours, your household responsibilities. For me, it's worship, family time, etc. This step shows me my actual baseline, what my weeks really look like, not just what I wish it looked like. And then I zoom in even more to my day. Here, I look at where my time, attention, and energy are actually going. And I can't tell you how eye-opening this was for me. Not only did it show me where does my time go, but also where I self-sabotage. After reviewing your year, your week, your day, you should also, at this point, start to see for yourself how much time and space do you actually have to pursue your goals. Then, when you look at where you want to be, the answers you uncover here is literally gold. You should start seeing whether your current goals actually addresses these areas that you want to change. Because if you don't, it will just keep getting in the way of the real goals or the bigger goals that you actually want to do. Now here's the thing, even if we know where our time and energy goes, even when we're honest with what's aligned and not aligned, many of us will still find ourselves repeating the same cycles. We plan, we start, and somewhere along the way, we will stall. That's because there are invisible loops running in the background, patterns of behavior, thinking, self-talk, and identity that quietly sabotage us. And unless we name them, break the pattern, we'll just keep reliving them. So the stages that the journal follows honors the way your brain processes resistance. So here's the pattern in a nutshell. So let me share with you an example of that. So to me, the biggest lie that I used to tell myself, or the script that I would always tell myself, is that I was not cut out for YouTube. But I really wanted to do it, and so I did it anyways. And I spent a year trying, but in the process, I kept sabotaging myself. I would overanalyze things, I would spend hours tweaking things, and when the videos didn't perform well, I used that as a proof that the script that I was telling myself is actually true. And so I crashed, I burnt out, I completely gave up. But what actually helped me dig myself out of that pit was working on this belief that things needed to be perfect. Because I personally saw how I could try to perfect things, but in reality, there's no such thing. Especially, in the beginning stage of doing YouTube, I was literally learning everything. And so perfection wasn't even feasible. And even if I got really good at, creating videos, scripting, and all of that, there's no such thing as perfection. I look at all these content creators that I really look up to, and when I tried to watch their videos with that analytical mind or eye that I have with my own videos, I saw that even them, despite all of those years, all of these experience that they had, it's not perfect. And I saw it firsthand in my life that trying to perfect things, it never really guaranteed me that success that I wanted. And so once I let that belief go, it came back to me and I got really clear as to why I wanted to start YouTube in the first place. I'm back. That's why I'm here creating videos again. And it actually feels so good. And honestly, that one lesson is enough to affect other patterns, other script that is replaying in my mind, because that gave me the confidence that I can also change the other patterns that I have. Okay, story time over, because there's one more thing in our way. And that's our resistance. Resistance is literally what will pull us back to our old patterns. And just like our patterns, we can't get rid of all of our resistance all at once. In fact, I don't think you ever could, because resistance will always exist whenever you reach out for the next thing. So the goal is never to erase it, but instead to stop being blindsided by it. We want to spot it, prepare for it, and build a plan that can withstand it. And to do that, we're going to look at our past, our present, and our future. And we start by looking back. Now, these questions might sting a little bit, but they matter because your brain carries the memory of the past. By naming them, you're reducing the shame, and it'll help you realize that this isn't about your present self, but it's about your pattern. And then we zoom into the present. So these questions, they're similar to what we asked in the pattern breaking stage, and that's actually intentional. And then we explore this further by looking beyond the mind and into your space, relationship, and your body to see if any of those things are contributing to your resistance. Because let's face it, if your body is struggling and your space feels chaotic, it's honestly not reasonable to expect yourself to perform well. And then finally, we look ahead. Your brain is wired to predict danger. In the future episodes, we're going to use these knowledge to help us safeguard all of our goals. I really want to get vulnerable with you for a moment here. Even though I did some inner work before, I figured out what my patterns were, resistance still shows up. And journaling through these prompts really helped me figure out the deeper root issues. So something in my life that I have started and not finished, honestly, working out consistently. And I think if we're all being honest, for most of us at least, we're all in the same boat. So to me, what got in the way, at a first glance, it seems like legitimate reasons, injuries, acne, because at that time I literally had fear of food and I didn't want to eat anything. Like I was just so scared that things will break me out. Another one was long commutes to the gym and family priorities. So to get around to these problems, I tried to tackle the ones that are within my control at that time. So I tried an at-home workout challenge, and for a little bit it worked, but then I'd lose the momentum during holidays or whenever life just got overwhelming. And this is where it got really interesting. One of the questions here it says is, are there past failures or emotional wounds that still weigh on me? Absolutely. I had two sets of answers for these questions. When I was reflecting back, I often wondered why I kept injuring myself despite being so careful at the gym. And looking back, during that time, I was really practicing this idea of self-acceptance. And I think my body at that point had already accepted that mindset that my body knew that my motive was wrong. Like it knew that I was working out because I wanted to change how I look instead of actually doing it because I want to feel good and that it's good for me. And so eventually I shifted that mindset. I moved to a more gentle at-home workout Pilates challenges. And for a while, I definitely thrived until life interrupted me again. And that revealed the second belief that I had. I had this belief that if I took care of myself, that means I'm neglecting my daughter. Because in my mind, amazing moms sacrifices everything. No excuses, no rest, all in. So whenever she was home, I would literally drop everything. We'd go on play dates, adventures, to the point where I was just so exhausted, I literally had nothing left to give for myself. And the wild thing is that we literally teach our children what to expect from us. And my daughter never asked for this. And I remember exactly the day she turned to me and said, I don't always need to go out to have fun. I actually like being in my room and playing by myself. She didn't see this as a profound thing, but I definitely did, because to me, that was kind of the permission slip that I didn't know I needed. It gave me the confirmation that I can take care of myself. I don't have to sacrifice my needs to be a good mom. And in fact, I'm modeling self-love and self-respect by taking care of myself. And I have to say I'm very lucky that, she had given me that. But the truth is, none of us need a permission slip to take care of ourselves. But one thing that really taught me with that experience, resistance will always show up. And hopefully the journal becomes the tool that you can use to loosen the grip of that resistance so that you don't quit when things get hard. Okay, before we wrap up, there's one last step. And this one is actually deeply personal, so it's best that you do this by yourself. Under identity integration, this is where you write out the version of yourself that you're committed to becoming and why it matters to you. Your homework is, I want you to take the time to answer the identity integration question in your journal, and then I want you to bring your current schedule and commitments that you can find in the reality check neutral awareness section in the next episode. Because in the next episode, we're doing the part where everyone's waiting for, actual goal setting. But this is not your usual goal setting style. We're gonna do it from a place of clarity, alignment, the self-knowledge that we gained from this journal. Also, this is where we're going to take our big goals and break them down into real, sustainable actions.